Fort Knox holds a lot of gold, not only the United States, but other major countries. The same with the Federal Reserve Bank, especially Federal Reserve Bank of New York holds a vast majority. And in fact, there was a skirmish where the Germans wanted to get their gold that had been sitting in the New York Fed for a while, and it
Right.
took them quite some time. The key is this: if they can do an audit and the gold that they claim to be there is there, I mean, I can't conceive that they would have sold off big chunks of our assets, the one of the greatest assets we have, and still run a deficit. It doesn't make logical sense, but then politics typically don't follow the rule of logic.
Fort Knox, home to many of the United States' gold reserves, rarely welcomes visitors. However, that may soon change as President Donald Trump and Elon Musk raise concerns about the security of the nation's gold, insisting on a personal inspection. While some may dismiss this as mere speculation, history suggests otherwise. The last major push to audit the nation's gold reserves came during a critical period in American monetary history, fueled by economic uncertainty and public anxiety. The U.S. Mint claims Fort Knox holds approximately 5,000 tons of gold, with only small amounts removed for purity testing during scheduled audits. However, questions remain about how long it has been since significant transfers occurred. GaryWagner, editor of GoldForecast.com, emphasizes that regular audits, ideally every 5 to 10 years, are essential for transparency. Yet past efforts to verify reserves have been met with resistance, with reports indicating that only limited access was granted, raising doubts about the accuracy of official figures. Meanwhile, DOGE plans to audit Fort Knox's 147.3 million ounces of gold, which represents approximately 59% of the Treasury's supply, and has an estimated market value of $431 billion. According to the latest reports, the U.S. Treasury holds 8,134 tons of gold, valued at approximately $793.9 billion at current market prices. However, despite its significantly higher market value, gold remains recorded at outdated valuations. Wagner suggests that recalibrating gold's recorded value to reflect its actual price, potentially around $3,000 per ounce, would provide a more accurate representation of national assets and the country's financial standing. Make sure to tune in for our expert analysis. Don't miss out on future content. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay in the loop. Your support is greatly appreciated.
There's two questions there, one regarding Elon Musk and DOGE, and the other one regarding actually auditing Fort Knox. I think it's well overdue to audit Fort Knox.
Yeah.
It should happen on an annual, not an annual, but a regular basis every 5 or 10 years. Every time, or the last few times, different politicians attempted to do an audit, there was not funny stuff, but they would show them one single room, and they wouldn't. It seemed as though, and I wasn't there, but from the reporting, it seemed as though they were having a very, very rose-colored glass view of what was in there. You know, Fort Knox holds a lot of gold, not only the United States, but other major countries. The same with the Federal Reserve Bank, especially Federal Reserve Bank of New York holds a vast majority. And in fact, there was a skirmish where the Germans wanted to get their gold that had been sitting in the New York Fed for a while, and it
Right.
took them quite some time. The key is this: if they can do an audit and the gold that they claim to be there is there, it is how it should be. I mean, I can't conceive that they would have sold off big chunks of our assets, the one of the greatest assets we have, and still run a deficit. It doesn't make logical sense, but then politics typically don't follow the rule of logic. You know, the other question that I find really intriguing is, why are they still maintaining the costs in terms of how it's on their balance sheets at a price that is completely unrealistic, whether it's $20 or $40 an ounce? And why don't they recalibrate it
Yeah.
so that the gold that we have is represented at $3,000 an ounce, not under 100? It makes zero sense to me. It's a quandary to me why they would prefer to do it that way, but it's above my pay grade anyways. But it seems strange because it logically, you would think that that would benefit everyone to recalibrate our assets in terms of its real value. It's not a far-flung question or request to do is to have our assets be valued at actually what they're worth. I mean,
Right.
that's not a crazy request. And so that to me is something I would like answered too, but down the road. First, let's get them in there and let's put all the conspiracy theories to rest and see that
Right.
there is the gold. The problem with a conspiracy theory is sometimes they are true.
Trump's upcoming wave of tariffs is expected to be more targeted than his previous broad threats, with potential exemptions for certain countries. This has relieved financial markets, easing demand for haven assets like U.S. Treasuries and gold. However, uncertainty remains as investors assess the long-term impact of trade policies and geopolitical disruptions. Despite these developments, gold has surged 15% this year, surpassing $3,000 an ounce for the first time. Investors have flocked to the precious metal amid rising economic tensions, strong central bank demand, and expectations of interest rate cuts. GaryWagner notes that the administration's aggressive tariffs have strained global trade, raising consumer costs while benefiting the wealthiest. With tariffs of 25% on Canada and Mexico and 20% on China, inflationary pressures have mounted, further solidifying gold's status as a preferred safe haven asset. Let's get back to the interview.
We have one of the most dynamic, exciting, exceptionally strong rallies that I have ever witnessed. I'm not the oldest around, but I'm not a fresh acorn off the tree, so to speak. I remember gold during the mid 2011s running up to an all-time record high. But when you think about the fact that we've hit, I believe, over 12 new record all-time highs this year alone, that we've taken out 2,000 and 3,000 so quickly and at such a massive momentum that there's something different about this rally than all of the other prior rallies. Not that they all don't have distinctions, but there's something very, very unique about what's going on right now.
What are you seeing right now? What's so unique about it?
We have an administration that has taken our allies and our enemies and decided to impose tariffs on all of them so that not only are citizens in the US and Canada upset that we're paying more for goods, Canada's upset at us, we're upset at Mexico. He's turned allies against each other. And here's the thing, who benefits off of tariffs? I'm going to stretch a wild guess and say, not the consumer.
Right.
Not the consumer here, not the consumer in Europe, not the consumer in Canada. Maybe the really, really wealthy that would rather see income come in that's taxed in a different way so that the blunt of the obligation doesn't fall on these mega millionaires or billionaires. Oh, and guess what? The president is quite wealthy. So I think that it actually benefits him in that his whole idea about bringing taxes down cannot be done without having an additional revenue stream. Well, he's pretty much figured out an additional revenue stream by taxing 25% to Canada and Mexico, 20% to China. And so it's reciprocal. So citizens everywhere are getting beat up. The only ones that are not are those that aren't concerned about the cost of bread, the cost of milk.
Yeah.
And so that's why I believe this is a unique scenario right now. The second thing is the whole question about Fort Knox, but I don't even want to go into that. All I want to say is I pray there actually is gold. If there isn't, that's
Oh yeah, that'll
going to be a nightmare scenario. But the main reason is the way our administration is imposing tariffs.
The debate over Fort Knox's gold reserves continues to spark curiosity, raising important questions about transparency and national wealth management. As discussions around audits and revaluations gain traction, financial markets and monetary policy implications could be significant. With gold's role as a hedge against economic instability becoming more pronounced, renewed scrutiny of reserves may reshape perceptions of national assets. Should governments regularly audit and revalue their gold holdings to reflect true market conditions, or does the current system provide sufficient accountability? Share your perspective in the comments section. If the video resonates with you, join our community by subscribing to our channel and enabling notifications with the bell icon. Thank you for being a part of our community.